Don't let your kids what's it?
Welcome everyone to the UndercoverBrony Reviews. The episode reviewed today will be The Cutie Mark Mix-Up, written by Jim Martin. So I was not expecting G5 to conquer this particular story this early on, but it's alright, I guess. Not as good as Royal Problem, but it's alright.
Yeah, this episode, as soon as the trope was established and I was like, oh, this is where we're going, I immediately rolled my eyes, sat back and braced myself for maybe one of the worst episodes we'd have so far. But I was very pleasantly surprised about halfway through the whole thing turn on its head, and then I actually think it's one of the stronger episodes that I've seen so far. So very pleasantly surprised.
For sure. So the episode continues on from last episode, and it's talking about how now they have the community garden set up. Hitch is trying to, talk about how, we have this community garden now. We're going to have this as a hub for ponies to grow their plant magic. A couple things here. I have to say, I love that Alpha Biddle's little armadillos are back, because those are like the cutest things in the movie, and I'm glad that they're back.
Absolutely.
I like what Sunny says here.
This will be your place to grow fresh foods, foster friendships, and have fun in the fields.
And then Zip decides to say in the middle of this,
Note to self, Earth Pony powers are officially called Flora magic.
Also, Izzy's screaming is just about as annoying as when Pinkie Pie would scream.
Yeah. Absolutely. Agreed. They brought over some of the annoying parts of Pinkie Pie as well as the good ones. And you know what? Maybe that's okay. I don't know.
Yeah. And another thing that they brought over from G4, these Earth ponies are fucking insane. Like,
yes,
they just fucking storm the gates of hell. And then one of them knocks one of the turtles. The turtle just goes flying and lands on the smoothie stand next to the garden. It's adorable because he lands on his back and then just starts sucking on a smoothie. It was really adorable.
It's a great moment, and I like what you were mentioning, that it's like just like in G4, Earth Pony mobs are just insane, intentional or not. I doubt this was a callback in any way, but it's kind of funny to observe that and be like, maybe that's just an inbuilt trait of like the Earth Pony race, that they just have this kind of insane mob mentality that the Pegasi and unicorns don't have, or at least not to the same extent. That's kind of a funny sort of like, I guess you could say, headcanon thing. Yeah, that Earth Ponies throughout the ages, magic or not, mob mentality. I mean, we saw that in I think it was the most recent episode we covered with Sunny, when the mob mentality serving a purpose in the plot, that here we are again. And it's probably just a convenient plot device, but again, it's kind of funny, the perhaps coincidental similarities between Earth Ponies and their mentality in G4 and G5.
And it's also the same thing. I mean, in the movie, it was literally a mob song, so I mean, it makes sense. I also have to say that I love what Hitch says here.
Whoa! Careful there, we don't want another Glimmerberry incident on our hooves, or on our manes.
And then, after a couple of more minutes, it switches over to Missy and Opaline. And I love what Opaline says here.
What is lacked in magical might? Conjure from my alicorn light.
And she concentrates, and it doesn't work. And I'm thinking, I find it interesting that in G4 we didn't really have, like, a lot of the stuff when it came to the spell work was very much just reading it in a book and then doing it.
Yep.
It was never really, like, explained outside of the season 7 premiere where they created a fucking summoning circle.
Yeah.
In this one, she's almost trying to do like an incantation of sorts. And I find that very interesting.
Yep, they're definitely taking it to like that. Like you said, they're taking it to an incantation route, which is like cool. It's again probably not, I would say, super intentionally building the world. But even if it is unintentional, it's an interesting world building idea that's kind of in this world where magic is being rediscovered by the unicorns, where they're having to do it in this more deliberate voicing the incantations way, because they haven't yet sort of like learned It almost makes me think of actually just was thinking about Harry Potter earlier, and it almost makes me think of in the Harry Potter universe, when they start learning initially, they have to do the incantations, say the phrases, but more experienced wizards can just cast them without having to do the incantation. That kind of makes me think of what this was, because it's in G4 it was a very specific thing when they would have to say the incantation. They were spells they'd never done before, or particularly complex ones, and now we're seeing Opaline have to do it again, maybe because unicorns, alicorns, whatever are rediscovering it, and that's again maybe not intended to be as deep as all that, but it's kind of interesting as a headcanon.
And speaking of Harry Potter, I wanted to show this to you and to all the audience. There's actually something very interesting when you go to Google. You know how you can speak into the microphone to search for something? This is what you do to turn on your flashlight through Google.
I have not seen this
Lumos. Ah, damn it.
No,
Doesn't
okay.
do it for my phone, but it used to be that you could say Lumos,
Dang it.
and it would turn
That's
on your
super cool.
flashlight, and you would say Nox, and it would turn off the flashlight. It's very,
That
very
is
cool.
That is awesome. That
So,
is really
another
cool.
way-
Shame it didn't work just now, but that's so cool.
So
I dig that.
here's basically what it would be, and I'll just use the flashlight thing here. But you would just go Lumos, Nox. It was so cool.
I love it. That is really, really cool.
Now, going back to the scene with Misty and Opaline, one of the funniest things is Opaline says something to the effect of, this ends, all these incantations and whatnot are ending in accidents. And then Misty pipes up with,
Accident? We can try that too? Stop!
Yet another iconic Misty moment that we've come to love
Yes.
so quickly.
another version of the beam that we need to
Yes,
protect.
another bean moment, just like
So then it switches back over to the Bright House and whatnot. All these animals are just rushing into the Bright House because the animals were in the garden, and when the Earth Ponies came in, they all scattered. And so you have that going on. You have just a bunch of stuff going on, and I love how when Hitch and Sunny are having their argument at the beginnings of it, it's literally talking about Hitch just says something to the effect of chaos and smoothies, and then one of the background ponies who has a camera takes a picture and he says,
Chaos and smoothies?
Chaos and smoothies? Now there's a headline.
that is tabloids and mainstream media verbatim. Like, seriously.
it's another one of those really funny, like just really quick single line, blink and you'll miss it, like commentaries or like jokes about like tabloids, things like that. They're gonna go over the children viewers' heads. That's like nice. I got that joke.
Yep.
Good reference.
Yeah, and I know that I have been busting a bunch of clips up in here, but I gotta show you this one.
Okay, so they're coming right for us. But I have a plan. I think we should stop them. Smart. What's the plan? No, that's it. That's the plan.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
that was.
No, it's a good moment. That's definitely a clip worth showing.
And then it continues with the argument between Hitch and Sunny. They're doing the same thing that the Royal Sisters did in A Royal Problem. Your job is so much easier. No, I have the harder job, blah, blah, blah. I have to say, the fact that Sparky's dragon fire is the reason that this whole thing happens is fucking ridiculous.
It's so bad. The entire setup to this thing is like, I mean, this is what I was saying. This is where I just rolled my eyes, buckled my fuckle, and was like, all right, well, there's, this is going to be one of those episodes. Because the entire lead up, the entire argument is just contrived as hell. It's incredibly, and then the actual inciting incident is just some fluke. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
So the remainder of the episode is three different things. It switches between Sunny and Hitch trying to do each other's jobs. The second thing is that Zip is trying to investigate what's going on with Hitch and Sunny. And then thirdly, it has the animals running rampant inside the Bright House and everyone going nuts over this. So one of the things I have to say that I loved, it switches a little bit over to this one little crab that just flips for no reason, and then just poses. It's really funny.
It's cute. I like the animal antics. It definitely makes me think of G4. And it's what you were saying as far as these kind of like three separate scenes that are kind of like plots, going on, right? Like the main plot and then like two sort of subplots, right? I actually really like that in this episode. I think that the flipping between those goes fast enough that it's never makes me like, okay, I kind of just want to get back to the main plot, but it's enough of a breaking the pace of the scenes and allows the direction to go back and forth between these scenes. That I think is good. That I think is actually a good aspect of this is we have these two subplots. Not too much time is spent on those, again, where I want to just go back to it, but it's enough to break up the flow a little bit that I think is good.
For sure. One of the other things, as they're trying to get the creatures out of the Bright House, Izzy finds this box of treats, of like animal treats, and I love what she says here.
Look what I found! Snackerdoodles, perfect for Cloud Puff or any other critter who needs to be convinced to just go outside already. Hey, that's perfect!
What a mood! What a mood!
Yeah,
like, seriously.
definitely.
Just
No, absolutely.
get outside already!
Touch grass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go kick rocks, please. Oh, and then I also love what happens here. You have this mouse that crawls up onto Pip, and then it just zooms in on the mouse's eyes, and then there's a perfect fucking meme face that Pip just has right here. It's absolutely hysterical.
It's a good one. Yeah. No, the antics, yeah, like I said, the background antics in this one are actually pretty entertaining. Like, not just in the, oh, here's the animals and ponies doing some funny stuff for the kids to laugh at. It's like, no, that was legitimately some fun little kind of slapstick goofiness that I appreciate.
And then it switches back over to the smoothie stand, and Hitch is trying to get everything figured out. You have one of the ponies saying that her smoothie is too smooth and that she wants it chunkified. And I'm like, you're drinking a smoothie, not eating salsa. What is wrong with you?
It's one of the most accurate representations of customer service in like an affluent neighborhood that I've ever seen. I'm like, yep, this is just like the kids watching this don't get it, but you will. One day you will look back on this and be like, I understand your pain.
And then the other thing is that you have one of that big guy that always has like the business suit and tie on. He comes up and is like, oh, the usual. And it's just like, what's the usual? And he's just like, well, Sonny knows what it is. Just make it like that.
It's like, I don't even know. Just whatever the shit you usually make me is.
Yep.
It's like, okay.
And then it's like that one joke. So it was a Tumblr post, I think. And it was basically like it's this girl that's just like coming through the drive-thru. And she's just like, hi, I'd like a nice coffee with like 14 shots of espresso.
Oh,
and someone's
God.
like, damn, bitch, just do Coke at that point.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's I think I saw a very similar meme to this that was like, dear people who drink 7 cups of coffee a day, just do cocaine like a normal person. It was like basically probably the same, probably taken from that, honestly.
Right.
But I was like,
right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was funny. Yeah.
And then one of the older ponies comes up and says, hey, Sunny actually talks to us while she's doing this stuff. You're being a little too quiet. And I'm like, that sounds like a typical shift that my wife goes through at Starbucks. Just saying.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Literally, I'll get those similar stories every day from Katie after she gets out of work. Because she's like, you would not believe the day I've had today.
I'll bet.
Zip is going around trying to investigate all this stuff, finds out that there's a switch cutie mark, and she goes to Hitch, and she's like, Sunny's having a problem. She needs your help right now. So then Hitch is like, well, why don't you lead with the animals are infesting the Bright House? Let's go. And then Zip goes up to Sunny, and is just like, hey, Hitch needs your help down at the smoothie stand. Ponies are rioting. And so she gets them starting to run. And she's like, okay, I hope this works. And then this mouse just comes flying at her face and just slams into her and knocks her over. And I have to say, it happens a couple more times in the episode, but ponies getting hit in the face and falling over from animals is the funniest shit ever.
I hope this works.
It's really funny, and it's. I like that you bring this up too, because it's another one of those things that reminds me of G4, right? Where we had in G4 it being 2D animation, you could have some of that kind of classic cartoon slapstick, and in G5 we see less of that because it is 3D animated. It can be a little harder to get away with that and not have it look weird, right? Have the physics just look really janky. So seeing it here, like you said, like it always looks funny seeing ponies just get hit in the face with stuff, right? And this sounds mean to say, but it's like it's really nice to see that like classic slapstick, because it's something that is kind of a little bit missing from this series, just sort of that cartoon goofiness that you're not going to get because it's not a cartoon. So it's always really nice to see that, because it's fun. It's just never not funny, and it's you love to see it.
For sure.
Also, before we move on from this, I like when you brought up that Zip comes and talks to the two of them and is trying to get them to run into each other's and help solve each other's issues. What I really like in this, one thing I really like in this episode is that Zip is not just being like, oh, I'm going to investigate this, but I'm going to actively take part in this and try to solve this, because we see little bits of Zip being a detective up until now, but it's mainly just kind of a passive thing, like, oh, I'm going to observe stuff and take notes or whatever. And it's like, okay, is this what her character is now? Like, I wasn't really convinced that she's like this detective character. Now we see her not just taking notes, but like coming to correct conclusions, guesses as to, I think I know what's going to go on here, and I'm going to give this a little bit of a push because I think I know what's happening. That's really cool. And I like how much of a driving force Zip is in this episode, despite the fact that she doesn't have a lot of screen time. She doesn't need it, because we've already had this buildup of she's got this whole like detective thing going on. So when it comes to this point where she's making guesses based on information she's collected and then making choices, pushing the situation a little bit, it makes sense. We've had the buildup to it, so it's not unexpected. And I think it's a nice sort of start to the payoff of her character, and I like to see it. It's making Zip a little bit more distinct from the other characters in a way that I really like.
Absolutely agree with that. So then Sunny and Hitch are running and they crash into each other, and this is the other knock of the episode that I really hate, and it's the fact that the tone shift of them crashing into each other and then apologizing comes the bumfuck out of nowhere.
Yep.
We knew it was coming, but the way it transitioned from them hitting each other to them apologizing was just so forced and so rushed.
It's another one of those contrived moments. It's unfortunate because this, like we were saying earlier, the sort of setup to this very tropey thing is very cringy, very predictable, and some of the stuff in between is pretty nice. Some of the antics, the switches in the subplot, the way the trope is handled, but then the way that it's resolved, we're right back to that really tropey, really forced. Like, come on, guys, you could have tried a little harder to make that believable, right? G4 showed us that you can have these shows with these kind of tropes that are tackled in a way that is still funny and interesting and unique, and then it's like, almost had it, screwed up the landing.
One of the other things, going back just a couple minutes into the episode, there's another line here from Izzy that I really like.
We're never gonna have a regular place to live again. That's just how it is now.
It's oof.
Yeah. Izzy's just prepared.
Like, that's rough, dog. You good? Yeah, for real. It's like, you good?
Yeah. Bro, you good, bro?
Yeah, seriously.
And then I like how they brought back the little hoof shake that Hitch and Sunny have.
Up high, down low, hitch it to a post. Flip it sunny side up and on a piece of toast.
And that's what triggers their cutie marks to switch back. I thought that was really great.
It's sweet. Yeah, it's nice. Like, hey, continuity.
And then right here is yet another meme face. So then Sunny and Hitch go their separate ways. Hitch is able to get the animals out of the Bright House, and then you have Sunny out there doing her smoothies. Seashell is reading this book, and Sunny's like, "What book are you reading?" And Seashell is saying that it's about a tree that grows special crystals called elements. Is that a reference to the Tree of Harmony?
It's
Survey
incredible.
says.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like show me the Book of Harmony. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's that. But yeah, it's cool to see. It's a little, I feel like a little foreshadowy of like maybe what we're gonna see. Spoilers if you've seen the show already. The stuff that comes in the next episode, some of the callbacks to G4, and so I was like, I see what you're doing, writers. I like it.
You're building
There's
up
more.
this world.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's nice.
So throughout this entire episode, I know we probably should have mentioned it earlier, but in that first scene with Opaline and Misty, Opaline creates this mouse thing with her magic, and she dumps them down into the Bright House, and Sparky chases this mouse the entire episode. But it literally is like a GoPro sort of thing, GoPro mouse, that they can see where it's going in the Bright House, and they look and they see that there's this lantern, Sunny's lantern, that has some of the prismium magic from the Bright House itself. And so they're like, that's where we need to infiltrate next. When everyone starts to notice it, it disappears into a puff of smoke. And Zip's line here is great. She says,
Daily mystery total 3. Cutie mark switch, disappearing mouse, and this smoothie.
great line. Gotta love it.
It's a good line. It's one of those ones that like just manages to get over that cringe line for me, where I'm like, okay, that's funny. No, that got a little giggle out of me. And if it gets a giggle out of me, then it's a good one.
Now, I do have a question for you here. Do you feel like they should be ending the episodes at Opaline and Misty's castle instead of like going back for a final scene? Because it feels a little out of place when they have the scene with Opaline and Misty, and then it goes back for one final scene with the gang. You know what I mean?
A little bit. And I think that's kind of just an artifact of the fact that it is this kid's show, right? Where we have to have there's like, oh, all the characters laughing at the end, haha, friendship moment. It makes me wonder, did we have any episodes in G4 that did a similar thing? And I don't really remember if we had ones that, because this is the interesting thing with this show, is it is surprisingly a lot more serialized than G4 was. G4 was very slice of life. There were overarching plot lines, but we really didn't see anything about those plot lines other than basically the premiere and the finales. And then occasionally we would maybe have an episode in the middle that dealt with it. But that was maybe once or twice. It's been a little while since I watched them. For a show like this that is more serialized, I think it would make more sense to end on our big plot lines, right? That's what every other show does. It does kind of make me wonder if it's one of those kids show things where it's like, oh, well, we have to end on the friends, or else it's like, well, where's our pony friends? I definitely agree that it would make more sense ending on those, especially for a serialized show. And it almost makes me think that it's trying to grapple with the serialized nature of the show versus the slice of life thing that they're maybe trying to chase. I don't know.
Well, I have to say that, like, it kind of reminds me almost of, like, the Don Bluth area of animated movies. That he says you can put a kid through anything as long as it has a happy ending, because most of his movies were really fucking dark.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have a feeling that's exactly what they're basically doing.
Now, going on to this final scene, one thing I do like is that they made this little critter corner so that if it's too much in the garden with all the earth ponies, they can come in and have their own little place to play. And I think that's great because now that Hitch can talk to these animals, it gives more of an opportunity of them to do stories like that where they don't have to go outside the Bright House if they don't want to. They're able to maybe have those conversations in that little corner of the Bright House.
Yep. No, it's a convenient design / writing choice that I appreciate it as well. Yeah.
And then the final thing that I have for this episode is that Sunny says this.
I think we just needed a little trot in each other's horseshoes, even if we didn't want to admit it.
that kind of in a way makes up for the really contrived resolution of the conflict. But at the same time, I wish that was like part of the language that was used during that resolution of the conflict.
Yes, it comes back to this sort of like really weird fumbling of this plot line because the setup and the resolution of it are really contrived and really forced, and yet the way that they took on the trope was actually fairly unique, and even like you said, some of that language was really good. So it's like there's this weird pulling where it's like on one hand, this part of it was really bad, this part of it was really good. So it's kind of like I really want to like this, but it's yeah. But I agree, some more of that kind of wording and that way of vocalizing those things would have been nice to see earlier rather than kind of what we got, where it's just like bump. Oh, I'm so sorry. We should have been empathetic to each other from the start. Whoa.
So that was the Cutie Mark mix-up, and like you were saying, it's better than I thought it was going to be, but that doesn't mean that it's a phenomenal episode or anything. It's kind of middle of the road.
Agreed.
For me, rating it, I'd probably go with a 7, because like for me, 7 is pretty middle of the road for me when it comes to stuff, because like the first 6 is usually like good animation, good voice acting, good shot composition, and then the 7 to 10 is like the range that I'll go with. So usually for me, I would go for a 7 on this one.
Yep. That makes sense. My rating system is a little bit different than a lot of other people's rating systems where, 7 is kind of middle of the road. For me, I kind of put that at 5. For me, like middle of the road is 5. Anything worse than 5 is like pretty bad. Anything better than 5 is a little bit better than average. Once you start getting to 8, 9, those are like, some of the best episodes. So for me, this is definitely right in a 5, right? This is kind of what we were saying where there's some great stuff in there. The antics with the animals, the switching between the subplots in a way that I think pacing-wise makes a lot of sense is great. The way that they handle the trope of the body swap thing is really cool because that, the way, like the mechanics of that were very different from what we normally see, where it's literally just their minds are swapped. This was their minds are in the same bodies, but their personalities are swapped. That's something really cool. It probably has been done before in some show that I haven't seen, but it's the first time, at least in recent memory, that I've seen this trope handled like that, and so I really like that. But then it's bookended by the setup being really contrived, really awful, the resolution being very rushed, very just forced and cringy. So it really does, like, I'm, perfect scale with the good and the bad, so I'm just right in the middle at a 5. Not the worst. It could have been way, way, way worse. But there's just too many things holding it back for me to keep it from being like a good episode. So for me, 5, right in the middle, not terrible, not good.
Absolutely. So next time is the episode we've been waiting to talk about.
Oh, yes.
Which is the traditional unicorn sleepover. We will see you guys at the flip side for that episode. So until then, that's it from me, John.
And that's it from me, Status.
And we will talk to you guys later. Peace out, Dragon.